Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview, this time covering VCT Americas Stage 2 for Week 4. My guest at this time is Zikz of 100 Thieves, this time coming off of their match against Loud, in which they came out victorious 2-1 to thus continue their journey in the regular season, and of course, solidifying, or maybe not solidifying their place in first seed, not officially yet, I'm not sure, you can kind of elaborate, but still, moving on, winning, that's all that matters
Yeah.
most. Zix, thank you so much for the opportunity as always. And so, first and foremost, it'd be fair to say that that was a match. You know, that was probably the hardest that you guys have to win so far in this season. So, first and foremost, how are you feeling? How tough was the encounter from your point of view?
Um, I mean, I definitely felt like, speaking candidly, like that was probably one of the worst matches that we've had. I mean, at least Sunset was terrible. Just being honest, like that was not really a good indication of like how our Sunset is, how we usually play Sunset. Um, Felt like pretty much everything that they wanted to do was working. Every single like gap that they wanted to push through, they found it. uh, just things were not being communicated to the level that they usually are, and people were not playing with as much risk as they usually do for us to be able to have consistent info. So yeah, I mean that map was like terrible, to be honest. We made sure to bring it up, talk about it, made Bind a lot better. I mean, Bind was like a pretty clean map for us. So I was pretty happy with Bind overall. I think there was still some like funny interactions, like thrown rounds where we're like, 2v1 or something like that. But I mean, if that kind of felt like it just felt like a totally like low energy day, I guess. Like a lot of like small micro mistakes over and over and over, or awareness mistakes, us getting caught off guard. Just felt like a low energy day. And I think that Pete, at the very least, Asuna, was very, very on top of trying to bring the energy up. And I think he did an incredible job at doing that to make sure that we were able to come away with the win here. Um, like 100% without him, a lot of these last two maps would have been very fucking hard, to be honest. Uh, but yeah, I mean, definitely very, very hectic toward the end. I'm glad that, one of these kind of went our way. We've been in a lot of these that were like very close games that ended up not going our way. So definitely feels good at least to learn while winning. Like feel like this is a loss, but in reality, at the end of the day, we come away with a win and another champs point, which for our long term is obviously very, very good. But there's definitely a lot that we can take away from this that we need to like learn from going into our future matches next week plus playoffs.
You mentioned about just having to go through an off day kind of thing for today and what you saw out of this team, and obviously you guys had to exert a lot of effort to get over the final hurdle and come out of this with a victory. Especially looking into what happened in map one, moving over to map two, and then going into map three, which was obviously probably the toughest affair in or toughest time frame for that series. At one point, Loud was poised to take this series on Lotus, winning it 13-11 and all that stuff. But you guys were able to claw back and win it in overtime. What was that final push? What do you think galvanized the team to finally make that final push and win the series in Lotus on overtime?
I think that we had just kind of figured them out toward the end. It was like toward the beginning, we had pretty bad. We just had moments that were like bad adaptations, but we were pretty quick to figure it out later on, which made our OT like a lot easier for us. We kind of knew exactly what they were trying to do macro wise, and once you kind of know what a team is doing macro wise, and you know what has been working, what hasn't been working, you can kind of like figure it out in your head what their next move is. And I think that our team did a very good job at adapting at the very least to make sure that we were constantly on top of trying to change our game plan to punish what they had been trying to do. So just a lot of like details like that, I think, was the big reason why we were able to close it out. Because a lot of what they were doing was, not complicated. I think like the more I coach this game, the more I watch this game, it's like a lot of the rounds that people play these days are like mostly to not complicate things too much and make things simple. And as a result of that, you can kind of like start to read into teams that do that a lot. And that was one of the things that they were definitely trying to do. It's like play heavy around their lurk timings. Sometimes this guy likes to fake. Just little details like that that we're all very aware of from like watching this team play or just from experiencing it when we play against them. And I mean, even if we knew sometimes that Luxio was lurking, yeah, he still got one up on us. So I'd say for sure they played pretty well, but we were able to adapt like in the end.
And with that said, now you guys are looking into finishing this regular season with a 3-1 record. Kind of double checking in the process. Yeah, you guys don't have first seed locked in yet, but yeah, you guys are in position to make that happen in your next match and then moving on to playoffs and all that good stuff. Point being, though, the main point that I want to ask you now is sort of the progression of the team from a start of stage 2 and even to this current moment in time. Obviously, you mentioned, people like Asuna standing out, helping the team win today, and also we saw the contribution of Kes having to go through a pretty shaky initial first part of that series and then step up a lot of ways in map 3, and also the same can be said for the rest of the squad. Amidst this process of having to not only continue to improve week by week, but also having to help Kes integrate into the team very quickly. What has been the one thing that stood out to you that you had to kind of work more than that you had to work more than the other parts of the game so far this season?
Mm, I would say a lot of it is just kind of integrating into a new team. Changing IGL, adding a player is like a pretty massive change, to be honest. I think that people's perception of us was obviously very good because they saw our first 2 matches. Everybody's on, their best form, A day, no mistakes, like just playing lights out individually. Then we play against NRG that's having a bad day, along with crew that's hasn't figured out that they're a double duelist like kind of team yet. I would definitely say that things looked very perfect in the beginning for sure, and when it comes down to it, it's like everybody just needs to realize in any sport, especially in video games, uh, form can change so quickly. It can change so fast, and realistically, these last 2 matches has not been our best form for sure. I think especially this match, it left like a bit to be desired, to be honest. Um, so I mean, for us, it's going to be a lot of just like kind of hammering down on the fundamentals and making sure that our interactions between players, in terms of like how they fight with one another, how we convert 2v1s, how we convert even 2v2s, and how we like default play these kinds of moments is going to matter so much, because that is definitely one of the biggest mistakes that we're making right now, is not having perfect moments where we play off of one another. It shows sometimes. We had like a 2v4 today as an example on Bind, where like we're playing off of each other very well. Like this guy takes a fight, he tucks, next guy peeks, he kills, then he re-swing, tuck. It's like people playing well off of each other even though you're not next to each other. But today it was like outside of that singular round, I think a lot of moments it was definitely lacking. So that'll definitely be part of the focus. But yeah, I mean, a lot of it comes down to like pretty much everything. When you start a new roster, there's a lot to focus on, to be honest. I think for us, it's going to be a lot of that. Just making sure that our interactions together are good, because I think our macro, to be honest, has been very good. On defense, we're almost always 4 men on the right side, 3 men on the right side. On attack, we're generally like slow, taking the space and like killing them, winning attack. Like we have a great attack win rate. And just, yeah, it just comes down to a lot of these like low number situations, figuring out how we want to play with each other, have good chemistry, and play out the low numbers.
Piggybacking off what you said, we saw an improvement of the team in terms of just having to build off of of what you guys have been improving on, especially like on the map. For an example, like you guys did basically permaban Lotus, and then we saw that happen. You guys played that, leaving it to the very end of the map redo process. And so, with
Mhm.
that said, as you guys now continue this journey into playoffs, with one match remaining against Leviathan, how confident are you that this team is able to string it together and make that push towards champions?
Oh, I think by all means, 100%. If we ever have an A day, like I'm telling you, it's gonna be clean wins across the board. A lot of it comes down to just making sure we have great routines, making sure we come in with like a good amount of energy, and that we on the day are fully prepared mentally for the match and just bring our best. Because, like I said, it's like a lot of just small interactions are really just the difference between us converting a lot of rounds on Lotus. We had like 1v2s constantly, with mistakes. Like the entire match, to be honest. I think almost probably like 4 or 5 of those rounds are just 1v2s that we lost. Um, so yeah, there's definitely a lot in terms of like conversion that we can do to better up. Yeah, and I think that once we kind of figure that out and make it consistent, then we'll be an incredible team. I think honestly, like our first 2 matches were a good representation of like, somewhere close to our ceiling, in terms of like how well we were playing individually and aim, and like how good our decision making was, how composed we stayed. A lot of that, showed in those 2 matches, and unfortunately didn't show as well in our last 2. So definitely something that's going to be our additional focus as well. Once we have that figured out, I guarantee we're going to win all the way out through and make it to champs.
Definitely good to see the confidence improve and grow after coming out of a match like this. So hopefully that can continue into the rest of the season. Zikz, thank you so much for the opportunity, for the interview, for all of your answers as always. Really do appreciate that. And of course, best of luck for us to yourself and the rest of the squad for the journey ahead.
Thank you. Appreciate it.